we've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle? I don't know why I whispered that. Why did I whisper that?
You know what, Jared? I'm a little sad. This is the last regular season week.
Don't be sad.
Of college football, but we got a lot of great games though.
We do have a lot of great games. This is actually
How are you doing?
One of the best weekends of the year for college football. Absolutely.
It is. It is the best week of the year. What are you talking about, Jared?
I mean, from a national perspective. Obviously, from a Ohio State perspective, it is the best weekend of the year. But from a national perspective, it's one of the best weekends of the year. And Kyle, we're starting things off with some Friday games.
Yeah, there's quite a few Thursday and Friday games here. It's surprisingly, and it's not just like, oh, Maction, which yes, Maction is going on as we speak right now, Jared. But yeah, there's a lot of good games this week here, and we're going to start off 2 games this Friday here. First one you have here, Jared, is Texas and Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Texas is a 13.5 point favorite in this game.
They are. I was looking at Texas Tech's record against the spread, as I have a tendency to do. And I noticed something. The two best teams that they've played this year, I would say by a lot. They somehow dodged Oklahoma this year. So the best 2 teams they played this year previous to Texas, Oregon and Kansas. And they played those games incredibly close. Like again, Oregon's a team that's been blowing teams out all year. They only lost by 8. They lost by 1 score to Kansas. So with Texas coming in and Texas maybe being a bit focused on the championship game next weekend, I see Texas Tech playing this one close. I do think Texas still wins, but with 13.5 points, I'm gonna say Texas Tech covers. I think this is like a 6 to 8 point game.
Give me the Red Raiders to cover in this one, Jared. Yeah, I agree.
Did you combine Raider and Rider?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'll take Texas Tech to cover in this one here.
Austin says Texas Tech pulling the upset, calling it now. It's my chaos pick. 1, I don't hate that. 2, I think there are 2 better options.
Zach, who's our guest picker this week here, he says, give me TT to take the exhausted Longhorns as Quinn Ewers and gang wins close in a typical Big 12 game that brings sadness to our hearts. This conference is garbage.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page, Zach. I think we're on the same page.
All right, also Friday night, Jared. Oregon State and Oregon. What is this doing on Friday night?
Fox paid them to do it. That's why.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Fox? All right, either
they're
way,
making money.
Oregon.
This is Kyle.
Ducks.
Kyle. This is how the Big Ten's rich.
Yeah.
The Civil War, by a pair of teams in a state that was not involved in the Civil War. Kyle, the joke wasn't good enough for you to leave all that silence there and highlight how bad that joke was. You really needed to keep talking.
Oregon is a 13.5 point favorite in this game. And honestly, Jared, as much as Oregon has looked good this year, and they have, Oregon State's defense is actually pretty legit. Especially watching last week and how they shut out Washington in the second half. They did pretty much what they needed to try to win that game. It just wasn't enough. It almost was enough. I got the Beavers to cover in this game. I think Oregon State's going to keep this close. Oregon will still end up winning, but yeah, I'll take the Beavers to cover.
Yeah, I think Oregon State. I think the Beavers have a very, very strong opportunity to pull the upset here. Like I think they're well poised to win this game, which would be the chaos injection that we need for this weekend. Austin, is this my chaos pick? No, it's not. But this is my second favorite chaos pick of the weekend. I do think Oregon wins, but again, I think Oregon State has a real opportunity to actually win this game. So if you're going to give me a 13.5 point buffer, 13.5 point buffer, I'm going to take it. Absolutely. So yeah, give me the Beavers to at least cover.
And Zach says here, it's the Civil War, and I would love to see some chaos, but give me Bo friggin' Nix in the fucking cover.
Why? Did you just not want to say it twice? Did you just not want to say it twice, Zach?
All right, we're moving on to Saturday. Saturday noon, we have Kentucky and Louisville. Louisville is a 6.5 point favorite. That's a great line. That's a great line because that's pretty much the number that they've won the past 2 weeks. They beat Miami by 7. They beat Virginia by 7. So theoretically, if they win by 7 here, they cover. But I'm actually going to take Kentucky to cover here. I think Louisville is playing with fire here, and I think this is going to be a really close one. So I'll take Kentucky to cover.
When you're a program, when you're a school, when you're a team like Louisville, and you're not used to being a front runner, it's sometimes very hard to be a front runner. You're not used to playing with that pressure, with those expectations. So one, can Louisville play with those expectations, with that pressure? Two, in looking at the against the spread record, Kentucky has only covered once since getting whomped by Georgia on October 7th. They haven't covered a game. Well, they've covered one game since October. Well, not even since October 7th. So since October 1st, I assume, because they certainly didn't cover against Georgia. Kentucky's been playing terrible against the line the last 2/3 of the season. With the number under 7 points, it gives me a fair amount of cover to go ahead and pick Louisville. If it was 7.5, I'd feel a little, but at 6.5, I'll take Louisville.
All right. Zach says here, I fail to see why Kentucky is even entertained here, but Louisville has a great season. They've managed, is definitely doable for some team chaos, but give me Louisville.
I mean, I was trying to make sure we covered all the most relevant teams in the games I picked. The only because Kyle, we had 9 teams in either S or A tier when we did Collegiate Chaos. All of those teams except Georgia are represented in our Sloopicks. That's how I picked these games.
All right.
Georgia just hit the cutting room floor because they're playing Georgia Tech, and that's like a 20+ point spread. So that was the one that didn't get picked.
All right, next game here is the Iron Bowl. Alabama is a 14.5 point favorite. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised this is not more, not 18, 19 and a half, something like that. Especially what we've seen from Auburn last weekend. I mean, who knows? I mean, typically with these rivalry games, you throw everything out the window, and you see what happens here. But God, it is so hard to look at last weekend and just how not just lose, but just badly to New Mexico State. Like, yeah, give me Alabama to cover.
Kyle, were you peeking at my notes?
No.
Okay. I like to have, I leave my notes here. Sometimes I have a bunch of stuff, this against the spread, that against the spread, against the spread at home, against the spread, this or that. For this, my notes simply says kind of floored. This number is under 20. Give me Bama. That's literally all I wrote.
Nice. All right, Zach says here, Bama managed to peak, find a quarterback, and their defense is typical Saban shape. Auburn. If they were Ole Miss, I'd say close-knit slobber knocker, but it's not. It's Bama for a big cover and the win because Auburn sucks.
Totally fair. And for what it's worth, I think their quarterback looks better largely because their young offensive tackles are playing better. In my opinion, I think it's the quarterback getting help. I think it's Milroe getting help more than it actually is Milroe playing better, for what it's worth. I agree. Well, there you go. Zach agrees.
All right. Next game here. Washington State. The Apple Cup. Washington State and Washington. Washington is a 16.5-point favorite. Now, I'm just going to read you some the victories that Washington had recently and their margin of victory here. Last weekend against last week against Oregon State, 2 points. Utah, 7 points. USC, 10 points. Stanford, 9 points. Arizona State, who's not that good.
That is a matter of fact.
8 points. And you're giving 16.5 to Washington State, who's, they're 5-6, but they're not Arizona State bad. I'll take the Cougars. I'll take the Cougars to cover.
Yeah. Washington hasn't covered a double-digit spread, and I think they've had 3 opportunities. They haven't covered a double-digit spread since beating Cal on 9/23. They've been playing most of their games very closely. As Kyle just pointed out, the only time they've beaten any team, regardless of the spread, the only times they've beaten any teams since California. So, since playing Arizona on September 30th, they beat USC by 10 points. That's their only double-digit win in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. It's their only double-digit win in the last 7 games. Yeah, Washington State's not good, but they're also not bad. So give me the Cougars, 16.5. Way too expensive.
All right, Zach says here, Washington hasn't been the same since Oregon has had a battle it out to survive lately. Luckily, they play in-state rival Washington State. Penix stands erect as always and gives me a woof woof Huskies.
It was the woof woof that got me, not the...
So he's got the Huskies to cover then.
He's got the Huskies to cover.
All right. And our last game here, I don't know, does this even have a fancy name for it? Florida State and Florida. Is there a fancy name for it? Like the Apple Bowl, the Iron Bowl, the game?
I don't know the answer to that question, and our resident Florida experts, Florida Buck's in here. Florida Buck? The Sunshine Showdown. Did you just make that up? Nope, that's actually it. That's terrible. That's terrible. I hate that. For the record, I hate that. That's some Iowa State trophy bullshit right there. Go Buckeyes.
He is right.
Michigan, indeed. All right. The Sunshine Showdown.
Oh God. Connor did the same thing.
All right. Kyle,
I
the
guess.
Sunshine Showdown. Yay. How is the Apple Cup better? Because it is.
Because
Anyway.
it is.
Bigger rivalry than Ohio State, Michigan. Sure thing, buddy. I know you're kidding. All right. Florida State, Florida, Kyle. Florida State's favored by 6.5 points. Who do you got? Oh, you am I going?
I'll let you go first this time.
I think Florida wins this game. Straight up. This is my chaos pick. I think Florida wins this football game. 6.5 points. Sure, I'll take that as a buffer.
This is the. It's not the Sunshine Showdown. It's the backup quarterback showdown.
That it is. And one team has a much sharper drop off than the other. And that team is Florida State.
That's why I got Florida to cover this game. Yeah, they have a legit shot in upsetting Florida or Florida State. Yes,
I just have a hard time.
At least Florida State actually has a lot more talent around them than Florida does this year, but still, yeah, I'll still take Florida to cover though.
Yeah, what I'm having larger picture than just this game is Florida State with their backup quarterback capable of beating Florida and Louisville in back-to-back weeks. I mean, that's not a rhetorical question, Kyle. Do you think that they?
No, I thought you were just setting the tone here. And
mean, I was, but also go ahead and answer.
No, not with that. Not without their quarterback. No.
Yeah. Jordan Travis, it felt like, was carrying this team around on his back for a while, and Florida's not very good, but they're better than the 5-6 record that they are. They've had a very tough schedule this year. They're better than 5-6. Not a lot better than 5-6, mind you, but they are better than 5-6. And Louisville, I don't think is nearly as good as their 9-1 record suggests, but they're not that far off either. And I just have a hard time seeing Florida State winning both of these games.
Yep.
So give me a 6.5 point buffer to pick Florida. I'm going to take it.
Yep. Same here. Zach says Florida State without Travis isn't good. This game could come down to mistakes in this rivalry, which I'm totally expecting a lot of mistakes in this game here.
Give me Florida on the cover in the season. Yeah, there's going to be some mistakes.
Give me Florida on the cover, but Jameis Winston's alma mater for the win.
Woody says FSU by double digits. Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say no.
I mean, yeah, he came in and the backup there, Rodemaker.
Against
he looked fine, but yes,
against a sub 500 FCS school. A bad FCS team. Not a good FCS team, not a mid FCS team, a bad FCS team. Who was winning that game 13-0 and then took out Jordan Travis for conservatively a season. I don't know, man. It's this feels like yeah, okay. As Zach says in the chat, even if I don't agree that it's going to be 13-9, this is another pick the under game for sure. What is the under of this one? Is it low? What's
50.5.
I mean, it's
under.
It's somewhat
I'm taking
low.
the under.
It's somewhat low. But I'm still taking the under. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Looking at some of these other games here, Jared, what are some other games that potentially could see an upset here?
I mean, my official
could the Egg Bowl, could there be an upset in the Egg Bowl here?
Sure. I mean, I think Ole Miss has looked incredibly sketchy against bad teams this year, which they're playing a very bad team. But again, Ole Miss has just not shown up to a lot of bad teams this year. Georgia overlooks Georgia Tech. I don't see it happening, Zach. I don't see that happening.
How about the game in Lincoln, Nebraska? A lot to play for Nebraska here. You are one game away from a bowl game here. And Iowa, like, what does this game mean to Iowa? Nothing. This game means nothing to Iowa here. They're already a lock into the...
I mean, it is a rivalry. It both, despite Nebraska not being in the Big Ten all that long, both of these fan bases have, for a new rivalry, both of the fan bases have fully embraced it. So again, it's a new rivalry, but it's already pretty intense. I don't expect Iowa to like go full spring game on it just because they're locked into the Big Ten championship game.
The line is 2.5 for the Cornhuskers.
Okay, but Kyle, we all want to know what the over under is.
Okay. Shoot, let me go back there. It is. How is this so much lower? 26.5.
There's no way I'm betting that. 13 points per team. There's no chance in hell I'm betting under on that.
That was lower. That was lower than the Illinois game, Iowa-Illinois game, which I thought was going to be really low.
Iowa set a record this year for one of their games being the lowest over-under in ever. I don't know. I thought it was the Rutgers game. I thought
that was 27.5. That's the one. 27.5.
So this was
still
lower?
under, and it was under still because it was a 22-0 game. Actually, all of their games. Was the Illinois game also? Hold on. I'm curious now. Yes, every game, as far as I'm going back to Minnesota was as well. I'm sure Wisconsin was as well. I'm dedicated to looking into this now, Jared. Oh my God. Every game, I'm going back so far in Iowa here. Every game has been an under. Where's the first one? Okay. Last time that they hit the over,
Michigan State
was against Michigan State.
They've only hit the over twice this year. Once against Western Michigan, once against Michigan State. So they only hit the over when playing Michigan teams. Just saying. And by the way, they haven't even necessarily been coming close. Missed the Illinois spread by 5.5, missed the Rutgers game by 5.5, missed the Northwestern game by 14.5, Minnesota game by 8.5. And yeah, the Rutgers game was only 27.5 points. Did you guys hear they switched our first game next year? I knew a change was coming. I didn't see what it was yet. Is that what's happening? So it's not Akron Did we sign up for a, because our schedule as it stood at the beginning of Tuesday. Oh, it's Akron instead of Southern Miss. Oh, it's now Akron. Okay. That's not the news I wanted. Our schedule's dog shit next year.
It is.
All right, our out of conference schedule is dog shit next year. We have a pretty tough Big Ten.
Going back to some of the other ones up, Texas Tech we mentioned could be an upset over Texas. That could be the big chaos in this game here. Some other unranked teams versus ranked teams that could pull out an upset here. Mentioned Washington State. Washington could be a lot closer. I think Iowa State and Kansas State. Kansas State's 19th. I think can be a interesting game. I'm not even going to count that one. UNC and NC State. NC State is ranked now, but
I'm sticking with Florida State. I just think, I mean, it's the number 5 team in the country. That's a prized pig as far as picking a chaos pick.
Mm-hmm.
And like you make a good point that Nebraska is technically favored against Iowa. So, I mean, that does make that makes good logical sense to take that pick. And I applaud you for taking it, but I'm going big fish here. I'm going to call the number 5 team.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with Nebraska here. Nebraska, I think they're going to pull all the stunts I mentioned, like I mentioned before. This is their game to be able to get one more game for the year. This is their big game here. To go
and
to
it's a young team with a lot of Nebraska's a really young team with a brand new coaching staff. They have a lot of momentum going as far as like, because they were very bad at the beginning of the year. They're playing much better now. I think it would be huge for them to get 2 weeks of practice. I think would be huge for them. So they are, even if the bowl game is going to be pretty unspectacular, getting those 2 weeks of practice will be huge for that program. All right, Kyle. Do you have anything else? Should we end this show?
I think that's it. I think, yeah, the whole opening game has changed for Ohio State there. So, yeah, it's not looking good for their out of conference. Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall.
I was really hoping that if they were going to change something, that they were going to do some sort of kickoff classic thing, and we were going to drop Southern Miss and add, a big game played in, Dallas or something for some sort of.
I mean, to be fair though, like
some big neutral site.
You're adding Oregon. You're adding Oregon to the schedule.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But you also removed Penn State from the schedule.
No, they play Penn State next year.
Ohio State does not play Penn State next year, do they? I thought they didn't. I've said it multiple times this year that Ohio State and Penn State weren't playing.
They do, Jared.
Did that change too? I'm so confused. They quit changing the schedule, Ohio State or Big Ten or whoever.
All right, I got nothing else, Jared. I got nothing else. Go Crew again.
Fair and valid, and I support it. All right. Once again, tonight's ending music brought to you by the Dead Schembechlers. The Dead Schembechlers are a parody punk band from the Columbus area, make a bunch of anti-Michigan songs. So with all that being said, Kyle, I'd like to ask everyone to drink local beer and listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, these are the Dead Schembechlers.